Good morning, traders. This is Shane Scott, the moderator of Newsware's Trade Talk. At Trade Talk, we're providing you with the most up-to-the-minute news on the market, along with the facts, themes, and short-term trading ideas for the day ahead. Joining me today is our trading anchor, Bill Olson, who brings over 30 years of institutional trading knowledge to our program. We're going to get things started with our markets update. U.S. futures are mixed this morning, with S&P futures down 0.05%, Dow futures down 0.11%, and NASDAQ futures up 0.12%. Markets are steady moving into the new week with the dollar relatively unchanged and gold having risen for a fifth day. Ride-hailing firm Didi plunged 20% in pre-market after Chinese regulators ordered the removal of its platform from app stores just days after its U.S. listings. Oil has jumped to a 6-year high after a fight between Saudi Arabia and the UAE brought an end to OPEC plus supply talks, and Saudi raised the price tag per barrel. One thing to consider about all of this is that the risk of conflict escalating into a price war could hamper the global economic recovery and add to inflationary pressures. This could even become a way to strengthen the Fed Reserve's case for tightening policy, as the risk of oil at $100 a barrel is something that could make for an edgy market. Among things to look forward to this week, the minutes of the last Fed meeting will be released tomorrow and could provide further context on the central bank's hawkish pivot last month. Over in Europe, the Stock 600 index saw gains in travel shares and declines in car makers. Bill, what are you seeing as far as market updates?
Shane, I've been watching the S&Ps all morning long, and they've been, flat to lower. They're down a fraction this morning, which is really where they've been all day long. You had a nice gain on Friday and doing some give back. It's market will likely be a little slow this morning, but the key highlights for this week include OPEC's production quota deal that is not happening. The Fed's meeting minutes are going to be released tomorrow, and China's crackdown on tech companies. And look at the oil prices, and they're going to be trying to push towards $80 a barrel. That disagreement last week, on Thursday, with respects to the UAE and Saudi Arabia is very significant. The UAE is asking for revisions to its baseline level, which is used to calculate its quotas. The UAE spent a lot of money in developing their oil infrastructure, and now they want to be paid back for it and by increasing their quotas. Saudi Arabia is saying no. If you remember what happened last time somebody took on Saudi Arabia, it was Russia last year. An all-out price war happened and dropped the oil prices significantly for 3 months. So this is not a good start for UAE. They're going to have to really do some negotiations with Saudi Arabia in order to be able to increase their production quotas, and they're not going to get everything they wanted. But there's no meeting scheduled, but I'm sure there's going to be some private discussions going on here. The Fed meeting minutes, they're coming out tomorrow. They're going to give you an indication of the back and forth with respect to the Fed's bond buying program. So we're going to have to wait and see what that happens tomorrow. But it's a light picture for earnings this week, but there are some that are happening. So we've got a lot of good things going on, Shane.
Let's go ahead and talk about earnings to watch. Like you said, Bill, the calendar is looking pretty dry, but is there anything we should look forward to?
Well, this afternoon we have Smart Global Holdings. That's ticker SGH, Sam Grace Henry. They're going to be releasing their EPS's estimates are $1.09, 1.09 cents. The move there is expected to be 8.42%. So it is kind of interesting. And tomorrow afternoon, we do have WD40, which is ticker WDFC. William David Frank Charlie releasing in the afternoon, EPS estimates of $1.15. The expected move of 8.39%. So that's kind of a big one. But it's a light week for earnings.
Moving into economic reports, Bill, tell us what we're seeing for reports today.
9:45 a.m. we have the PMI composite. This is the final report for June. And at 10 a.m. we have the ISM services sector index report.
Moving into our morning's critical insights, starting things off with one on Chart Industries, ticker GTLS, and Hyzon Motors. The companies are partnering to develop liquid hydrogen-powered heavy-duty commercial vehicles, specifically a truck with a range of up to 1,000 miles. In other news, Huntington Ingalls is set to acquire Alion Science and Technology for $1.65 billion. News on AstraZeneca, ticker AZN. The company has been given clearance by the European Commission to acquire Alexion. ticker ALXN. AstraZeneca's share price is down 0.56% in pre-market, while Alexian's is up 0.89%. Other acquisition news: Patterson UTI is set to acquire Pioneer Energy for $295 million. And some merger news: Advaxis, ticker ADX, and pharmaceutical development company BioSite are set to merge and create a public company under the name BioSite Therapeutics and will trade on NASDAQ under the ticker symbol BSTX. ADX's share price is up 51.84% in pre-market. SPAC acquisition news: a community social networking company, Nextdoor, is set to go public through a merger with SPAC Colsa Ventures Acquisition, ticker KVSB. The combined company will trade under the ticker symbol KIND. KVSB's share price is up 2.93% in pre-market. In other news, Bridgeline Digital, ticker BLIN, is up 35% after a 56% rally on Friday after becoming a top trending ticker symbol on a stock-based social media site. On the same site, the second highest trending name is Ocugen, ticker OCGN, which is now up 15% in pre-market. Some news on Boehringer and Eli Lilly, ticker LLY. The companies announced this morning that their phase 3 trial for their treatment for preserved ejection fraction and heart failure has met all primary endpoints. The treatment has also seen to protect the hearts of those with diabetes and cardiovascular disease. In other news, Facebook, ticker FB, Twitter, ticker TWTR, and Google, ticker GOOG, have reportedly told Hong Kong authorities that they would stop services in the city that implements certain changes to its data protection laws that would make tech companies liable for malicious sharing of individuals' information. The proposed amendments reportedly call for up to $128,000 in fines and up to 5 years imprisonment for offenders. Lastly, for me, one on South Korea. South Korea is in talks with COVID-19 vaccine makers, including Pfizer and Moderna, to make up to 1 billion doses. Bill, what are you seeing as far as this morning's news?
Well, Shane, I break my news alerts down into specific sectors for events and for industries. And that way, when the breaking news hits, I can see it and react to it very quickly. I have my FANG alert that I run every morning, and I see a Wall Street Journal article, because I get the Wall Street Journal in my electronically in my FANG alert. And there's an article in the Journal this morning indicating that the chances of the pending tech breakup bills becoming law in their present form are not high. And any movement is likely to be slow here. Congress is just too preoccupied with other battles at the moment. And you know that the lobbyists, they're out in force and they're already pushing back against this legislation. I'm looking at Apple. I see JP Morgan raise their price target on Apple to $170 this morning. Amazon, ticker AMZN, Apple, Michael, Zebra, Nancy. Advertisers have started to shift their spending from Apple to Android devices since Apple began requiring apps to gain iPhone and iPad users' permission to track them. Facebook, that's ticker FB, Frank Boyd, social media company, said that it has resolved a technical issue that caused some users some trouble accessing Facebook Messenger on Saturday. And Twitter, that's ticker TWTR. They're no longer going to be enjoying limited liability protection against user-generated content in India, as it failed to comply with new IT rules the Indian government came out and said in the court filing over the weekend. Moving over to my Dow Jones 30 alert, Salesforce, that's ticker CRM, Charlie, Richard, Mary. Companies are saying their cutting office spaces are really going to lead to long-term savings. If you need less office space, that can go back into revenue that you're generating for shareholders. CVX, that's Charlie, Victor, X-Ray. Shares are trading higher this morning, will likely continue to trade higher as OPEC failed to reach a production agreement over the weekend. And, my stories to watch, this Didi, that's ticker DIDI, David India. Apparently, weeks before Didi's U.S. IPO last week, Chinese regulators suggested that the firm should delay its IPO and conduct a thorough study of its network security. But, due to investor pressure to list the stock, the company, went ahead with the listing, and now they're going to face a host of lawsuits, which is likely going to weigh on the stock this morning. In terms of my option headlines, here are some stocks that had some activity and unusual activity. in Friday's option volumes. That includes Ford, Boeing, Micron, Snap, Alibaba, Disney, and Uber. In terms of events this morning, Sumo Logic, that's ticker SUMO, Sam Under, Michael Oscar. At 1 p.m., they're having their shareholders meeting today. And that's what I have as far as stories to watch this morning, Shane.
Well, let's go ahead and talk about our Trade Talk picks for today. I'm picking Chart Industries, ticker GTLS, one I just spoke about, off of the news that they're partnering with Hyzon Motors to develop a liquid hydrogen-powered truck. So big things about it. It's 1,000 miles that this car is going to be able to get per full tank, and that's a pretty big thing, especially considering the news about what's going on with OPEC, the fact that after 3 days of infighting, they couldn't come to an agreement, and oil might go up to as high as $80 a barrel. Not to jump the gun, but you got sources talking about how $100 a barrel would cause an uproar. So the fact that it's going to move higher and there's some negativity around it and we're not seeing agreements, this is going to give some positive sentiment to alternative fuels. So I wouldn't be surprised if we can see a bump for alternative fuels today. And this news coming from GTLS, it's a good one as far as a vehicle that's going to provide that. So that would be my pick. I think one thing to keep in mind, of course, is the market cap's a bit high. It's $5.4 billion. But other than that, I think this is a move that's likely to see some positivity. What's your pick looking like, Bill?
I'm going with Crowdsource. That's ticker CRWD. Charlie, Richard, William, David, Crowdsource. I mean, there are some recent hacking activities, and this is likely to create some positive momentum in cybersecurity stocks this morning. And Crowdsource is one of the leaders here. You know, there was a ransomware attack over the weekend where hackers locked up thousands of computers. And, that happened on Friday, and these guys are demanding $70 million. And I noticed that there are multiple research reports on cybersecurity stocks this morning. I have not read them all, but I'm positive on Crowdsource this morning, ticker CRWD.
Let's go ahead and talk about what's hot off the press. So this is the news hitting the tape. It's going to be moving the stocks today. Let's get into it. So, Bill, seeing our headlines, which are the ones we should be letting traders know about?
Supermarkets are said to be stockpiling inventory as food costs are rising. That, you could look at Kroger for that one, ticker KR.
Surmodics, ticker SRDX, is acquiring Vetex Medical.
Camping Worldwide, that's ticker CWH, Charlie William Henry. They continue expansion with a Vermont acquisition.
Natar Group and CF Acquisition are entering a definitive merger agreement. And CF Acquisition's ticker is CFV.
Here's one on Intel, ticker INTC. Intel is outsourcing chips to TSMC, that's Taiwan Semiconductor, in hopes it'll bring back market share, says Citigroup.
Arbutus, ticker ABUS. Biopharma and Vasitech have entered into a trial collaboration. They're going to be testing for a treatment on chronic hepatitis B. This was just a headline I saw earlier, very short, but it was that China is pledging for greater scrutiny for publicly listed companies. So something maybe to stay tuned for. Anything else interesting for you, Bill?
No, that's all I'm seeing this morning, Shane.
Same here. So that'll do it for what's hot off the press. Traders, keep in mind you can receive the same breaking stories that we do simply by subscribing at newsware.com. Check us out and get a free trial today. Moving into our scoreboard, talking about how our picks did from Friday. I had DraftKings, ticker DKNG, which opened at $51.92. And after the open, quickly jumped to $52.31 within the first 10 minutes of trading, before dropping back down to the $50 range and closing just a tad higher at $51.28. So had a moment where it gained, but just really didn't hold it, and ended up closing a little bit lower than the open. Not a huge fall, but just not a great way to make money Friday after all. How did yours end up doing, Bill?
Well, I did NCR, Nancy Charlie Richard, formerly known as National Cash Register. This thing was really good. It opened up at 46.50 on Friday and hit a high of 47.93. It ultimately closed at 47.59, easily beating the $1 and 1% marks. You look at it this morning, it traded as high as 49.40 already. It's up as the economy starts to reopen. National Cash Register should continue to climb. That's ticker NCR, Nancy Charlie Richard.
Nice. Well, that's going to do it for us here at Trade Talk. But traders, you know what to do. Let's get out there. Let's make some green.